right, well, awesome. We're now at 1:02, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Olivia Cano, and I'm the Community Engagement and Events Manager for the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. Today's webinar, The Future of Food and Ag in Greater Sacramento, will begin in just a moment. We have a great lineup of speakers for today's program, so please take advantage of their expertise by dropping any questions that you have for them in the Q&A function, and we'll do our best to answer your questions live. We also encourage you to participate in today's conversation by using the chat feature below. Today's program is being recorded. After the program, you'll receive an email with a link to view the recording, as well as a survey. We invite you to fill out that survey and provide us some feedback so we can continue to make these programs tailored to your interests and your needs. And without further ado, it's my honor to welcome City of Woodland Mayor Pro Tempore Mayra Vega to kick off today's webinar with some opening remarks.
Thank you, Olivia. I appreciate it. And thank you to GSEC for hosting this conversation on this afternoon. So my name is Mayra Vega. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Woodland, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's event on the future of food and ag. Woodland, I believe, is a gem within the Greater Sacramento region. We are proud of our rich food and ag legacy. Our Greater Sacramento region has been a leader in food and ag for hundreds of years, a history you can literally see at places like Woodland's California Ag Museum. Woodland is already home to one of our world's best and most diverse concentrations of food and ag business, with well over 180 partners ranging from seed researchers to growers and ranchers. These local food and ag businesses create a diverse and resilient local economy full of good paying jobs. But Woodland knows that we need to both celebrate our current success and make smart and bold decisions that continue to position our city and our region as a food and ag innovation capital. So we're building a business climate that is just as welcoming to food processors as it is to a food tech startup, and a climate that's home to something I'm very proud of, more woman-owned businesses than the Yolo County average. We're putting together the first ever Yolo County Farm Workers Appreciation Festival here in Woodland this September to honor the diverse and vibrant farm worker community that helps make our food and ag economy possible. This fall, we expect to finalize our plan to develop the 350-acre mixed-use Woodland Research and Technology Park that will help food and ag leaders commercialize their innovations right here in our region. But our most visible investment in the future of food and ag is the brand new lab at Agstart, a state-of-the-art facility here in downtown Woodland that will help grow the next generation of food and ag startups and problem solvers. To tell you more about the lab, please welcome Agstart's Program Director, Liana Sueja. Liana, on to you.
Thank you, Pro Tem Vega, and good afternoon. My name is Liana Sueja. I'm the Program Director for Agstart. I'd like to tell you about Agstart's new incubator in Woodland, just outside of Sacramento. And I'd like to tell you why our facility and the services we provide are so critical to the future of agriculture. Agstart is a
Liana, I think we lost you there. Well, unfortunately, it looks like we've lost Liana. I'm not really sure what went wrong there. We'll go ahead and open it up to the panel. I'm gonna turn it over to Chelsea Miner, Corporate Director and Consumer Public Affairs for Raley's Fine Foods, who's going to moderate our panel for us today. And Chelsea, I'll let you take it over and introduce today's panelists.
Awesome, thanks for the introduction, and welcome to our at-home audience. If Liana comes back, we'll be flexible and we'll make sure that she has her time as we kind of dive into today's panel. I work for Raley's, a family-owned third-generation regional grocery chain here in the region that cares and has a ton of passion for food and agriculture. We've supported local food and ag production since our inception in 1935. And with that, our current owner, Mike Teal, is a huge supporter of family farms. So it is natural for us to be involved in these conversations across the region. Mike also leads the Food and Ag Council within the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. And we have actually sponsored, and when Liana comes back, we'll listen to her more, but we're really proud to sponsor the Raley's Food Lab at the new lab at Agstart in Woodland. So I'm excited to have this discussion today to talk about why the Greater Sacramento region is poised to be an industry leader in food and agriculture space. We have a $2 billion industry that's critical not only for our region as it relates to food accessibility and sustainability, but a great opportunity for regional economic prosperity and growth. Today's panel will talk a lot about the strengths that we have in this space, but also talk about some of the opportunities for growth and what things that we think collectively with some of the great minds on this panel to really propel that growth in the ag technology space. I'm very excited because today's lineup is all females, all of which have PhDs and are experts in their field and doing some incredibly innovative work in the landscape of ag technology. I will say this is not by accident. For all of us that have been involved in the planning of this panel, this was very purposeful for us to bring together, again, some of these very dynamic women leaders who I would argue are really leading the charge in helping us get to the next generation of agriculture in our region, which is very exciting. So with that, I'm excited to introduce our panels. Dr. Vanessa Castagna, she's a scientific affairs liaison with Turtle Tree. Dr. Pan Marone, founder and director of Marone Bioinnovations, and Dr. Fatma Kaplan, who's the CEO and CSO of Fernin. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. So I'm going to start by asking each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit more about what you do in this space and what innovative technologies you're currently working on. And with that, I'm going to ask Vanessa to start.
Thank you. Yep, so I'm Vanessa Castagna, the Scientific Affairs Liaison. I'm not the founder, the CEO and co-founder Fengru Lin. She is Singapore born and raised. She unfortunately was not able to be here today, so I have the privilege of standing in her stead to introduce our company, Turtle Tree. So we are a cellular agriculture-based company. We are in the dairy area, which is quite unique for cell ag. We are focused on producing milk and milk bioactive components, including proteins and oligosaccharides that you would find naturally produced in either bovine or human milk. So we're recently relocated from Singapore to actually Agstart in the Woodland area and are very happy to be a part of this panel.
With that, let's pass it to Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Marone. I am a longtime serial entrepreneur in the bioag space, starting up Entotech way back in 1990, then AgriQuest, then Marone Bioinnovations, all dedicated to biologicals for plant health and pest management. And now I am still on the board of Marone Bio and advising the company, but also advising many startups from farm to fork, including one that uses hyperspectral imaging to assess plant health, biocontrol company you'll hear from Fatma Ferronim, AI company, artificial intelligence company for grading nuts and berries, and an all woman-owned winery. So those are just some of the things I'm working on. There's a lot of potential in this region, as we'll talk about.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here. Fatma?
Hi, I'm Fatma Kaplan, CEO and founder of Fernim. We use a new kind of pheromone to control agricultural pests so farmers can have alternatives, eco-friendly solutions. We target the pest in the soil or if it has a life stage in the soil. And the pheromones we are using are different from the ones in the market. The pheromones in the market target the above ground and they're volatile. The pheromones we use is from microscopic roundworm called nematodes. And we target the pests in the soil because they're water soluble and we can dry them. And we have two applications. One is we can use beneficial nematodes to control insect pests. And the second is we can use it as a seed treatment to control plant parasitic nematodes.
Fascinating, and so much incredible work that's happening in really keeping, I think, the prosperity of our rich agriculture alive. So thinking about, as I noted earlier, right, $2 billion industry, we've got over 1.5 million acres. That's probably a dated number, 55,000 plus jobs, depending on, again, the numbers that you look at. As you guys think about this, and I'm going to start with you, Pam, why is food and ag technology important to our region's future? And also kind of looking back and thinking about, where we've been, and especially with your rich history here in the region.
Well, number one would be creation of jobs with creation of companies and also bringing new companies here. And creating a cluster attracts more companies. And as more and more companies come, then more want to come. And we're actually developing a very nice ag tech and ag biotech cluster here and food tech cluster. So that's exciting to see. But the bigger picture is that huge investment is going into ways to feed the world more sustainably and reducing ag's carbon footprint. So most people believe that we're going to do that through innovation. So that's why creating a cluster like this and continuing to focus on innovation in a region is so important. And there's more startups than ever before in ag. It's a very exciting time here.
Pam, as a follow-up to that, what do you think is missing, right, that we need in order to keep those jobs coming?
Well, I've railed for years about not having an incubator. Now we've got the lab at Agstart, which is fantastic. That's a start, but we also need a much bigger research park. And I'm so happy to see that Woodland is moving forward with theirs. Maybe Davis will get their act together and do it too. And then we'll have more than one, but I'm not holding my breath after living in Davis for 31 years, but anyway. So those are two, if you're an entrepreneur, you need a wet lab facility. But there's lots of other resources here. We've got UC Davis, we've got the Carlson Center for Innovation at Sac State. We've got Fourth Wave, Haney Biz, Agstart. So there's a lot of resources that are coalescing in this region to help entrepreneurs.
I love that. So Fatma, back to the kind of original question around why is food ag technology, especially with the development of your technology, important to our region's future?
Many of you probably aware that Europe recently banned a huge number of pesticides, and it created a huge need for farmers for eco-friendly solutions. With NSF I-Corps program, Pam was our industry advisor. We reached out to many of the farmers and they told us the same thing. They had very limited tools, particularly when it comes to organic farmers. They had even more limited tools. They wanted to have solutions that were friendly to biologicals. And so there is a huge need for it. And if we think about how big companies are merging, it is in the news, recently, probably last year. And now when they merge, the first thing to go is their R&D department. And the bigger they get, the smaller the R&D becomes. And when the R&D pipeline, they still have the existing pipeline, but that is going to be decreasing in the next 10 years. And our region will be needing a lot more startups. So 10 years later, when they realize, oh, we don't have any product, what to do? And now our existence and developing new products will be a huge benefit to our region, and it will keep us still at the forefront.
Wonderful. And for you, Vanessa, what things are important as we think about ag technology moving into the future?
Yeah, our company is focused in a bit of a different direction since we are dairy-based, both human and bovine. And so our focus is more on understanding the sustainability issues surrounding the dairy industry. And although we don't propose that we alone would have a significant imprint or impact on disrupting the dairy industry, we do believe that food science is definitely needed. Innovative food technologies are needed to improve the sustainability aspect of everything, our dairy, our other aspects of agriculture. So we here are doing the best that we can to sort of pave the way for other companies to come behind us to continue to expand this technology and hopefully provide what our focus is sort of better for you ingredients. So we are not just looking at, making milk, but we are interested in really finding the most nutritional and immunologically beneficial ingredients of milk and improving the technology behind cell ag so that we can produce these at a cost-effective means to provide these for people who really do need access to this, including infants and elderly. So in Sacramento, this is not unique to Sacramento, of course, this is unique to the human population altogether to really address these sustainability issues. For Sacramento, we have some particular issues here, including our water crisis. This is not just Sacramento, obviously the Greater Sacramento region, the Central Valley, the drought that we're facing now, that we have faced before, that we will face again, talks a lot to the need for better water distribution, or at least understanding the issues surrounding the access to pure and clean water. So for ag, for our technology, we're really trying to focus on how to produce these same high quality proteins, components that use much less natural resources, including water and land.
Vanessa, as a follow-up, thinking about Pam's sentiment around creating this ecosystem and this, huge push from consumers, right? We're seeing it in the retail space for plant-based products, sustainability products. What type of ecosystem is being built in our region around these milk alternatives, meat alternatives? What are you seeing? How's that, resonating and kind of building up?
That's a great question. In fact, one of the biggest drivers for our company moving to the Sacramento region is because of the fantastic support network and innovative technology coming out of the region. UC Davis alone is one of the world's leading research centers for milk, for dairy, but also for cellular agriculture. There's a very significant grant awarded to the CMC, the Cultivated Milk Consortium group at UC Davis, and there are numerous programs coming out of that group, which is quite remarkable. The support for biotech startups in this space in West Sacramento and Woodland has been tremendous. There was a recent opening of the Better Meat Company in West Sacramento just a few weeks ago. They're in the space as well. So it's really exciting to see the substantial support of the region in this space, and to see emerging technologies. And just to kind of drive that point, just even with I am a UC Davis alum, so I'm a bit biased there. And I come from the food science region, specifically the milk bioactives group. And even from that group alone, there have been incredible technologies developed and numerous startups, including Evolve Biosystems, focusing on infant probiotics, and BCD Biosciences is a newer startup looking at oligosaccharides, which are carbohydrates. And then most recently, Motrubials, who's currently in a Y Incubator program that's also focused on milk peptides. So continuous production from that milk group, which just speaks to the innovation and support with the Venture Catalyst group at UC Davis.
Yeah, I love that. I think about some of the old, manufacturing that has left, unfortunately, but this is kind of this new wave of manufacturing, and it's exciting to think about the future. So with that, what strengths do we have as a region when we're thinking about recruiting food and ag, companies? Myself, Mike Teal, our owner, we've been to the Forbes Ag Tech Conference several times with the GSAC team, all about trying to put some of the pieces together that Vanessa just shared, that, hey, we're building something really great here and you belong here. I know Pam would say access to farmers, right? So with that, Pam, let's start with you. What are those strengths that you see when you're pitching or when you're conversing with some of your peers that are maybe outside of our region on why they should be here?
Interestingly, I am working with a Spanish company that wants to locate headquarters in the US. And of course, Davis is top on the list because of UC Davis and because of the proximity to all the growers. Yeah, the specialty high value fruits, nuts, and vegetables, unrivaled in California. Of course, we do have the problem with access to water, and hope we can help fix that. But yeah, access to customers, being able to run out and do a demo with early adopter growers, but also being close to Sacramento. Sacramento's, California's EPA and Department of Pesticide Regulation and Department of Food and Ag are cutting edge in terms of policy in ag. I'm on the Sustainable Pest Management Working Group, which is aiming to move California agriculture to even higher sustainability heights. And so what we do here reverberates around the globe in food and ag policy. So those are a couple reasons why you would locate here. At Marone Bio, we have and AgriQuest, we had a constant, and Entotech had a constant stream of UC Davis interns that would work in the company. And also then we would hire them. And so that talent pool is there, and also from Sac State as well.
Great. Fatma, for you, what are some of those strengths that you would tell your peer organizations, this is the place we want you to be?
I would start with the actually incubator. Incubators are really, really essential. One of the reasons we were able to come to Davis is HM Class incubator. And we looked for an incubator place because that would be the most affordable way. And we are very happy. And the next thing was for us to grow, we needed a bigger incubator space. And luckily, Agstart opened, so we could still stay in the location. And we need one more incubator space where we can actually have our own lab with the shared. And I think we talked to John Salep, and he says he's working on it. So for us to stay, that is going to be the next stage. And the region is really working hard to keep the startups here. I think that is really, really important. I would say second most important is the funds. As Pam mentioned, how close Davis is to Sacramento, Berkeley, San Francisco. Many of the investors are, at least we talked to, are in San Francisco. So the transportation is really amazing. We can go anywhere. And the trains. And another one is the resources. Recently, we got funding fellowship actually from Activate, which provides us access to Lawrence Berkeley Lab. And it is going to be really important for us to be able to scale up. Many of the things we don't have to own because having an infrastructure costs a lot. But at Lawrence Berkeley Lab from Davis, we can directly take the train to go there and benefit from their resources to scale up our manufacturing and established methods. So I would say funding, incubator, resources, and talent. Pam mentioned we recently hired actually two people from UC Davis. One recently graduated, that was last year. And this year we have one intern, she's going to graduate next year, and we have a really great talent pool.
Yeah, so we're keeping everybody local. I love that. And Vanessa, as a UC Davis grad and somebody who, you know, kind of was able to stay in the system, but again, you mentioned your company's from Singapore. You know, what gravitated, what are those strengths you guys were looking for?
Yeah, as mentioned, because we are dairy, we're really focused on trying to find a strong kind of university anchor that had strengths in this area as well. For me, my official title is Scientific Affairs Liaison, which means I assist in claims testing for our products. And there's no better place for me to go and begin these collaborations than UC Davis for our particular, at least for dairy-based proteins and protein components. So just to echo what both Pam and Fatma said, like the resources available to us here are stellar in comparison to almost anywhere else in the country in the food and ag space, for sure.
I'm going to ask the Mayor Pro Tem to come back and join us, because I think there's some great things that are happening specifically in Woodland. And as we talk about strengths, I think about the partnership that we have with your organization for the food front and really creating an umbrella organization to support the end product, right, that gets to our customers, both here in our region, but elsewhere. What else might you add to the conversation around the strengths that we've got in the region?
Thank you, Chelsea. Absolutely. So as mentioned, the food front is just such a great umbrella to support and promote the local industry here. So I think that's been successful, much to the credit of our city manager, Ken Hyatt, who had this vision and brought it all together. I think we're uniquely positioned on council and our staff to really take the reins and make these bold moves. So we talked about the research and technology park, right? I think it's important, and we have that vision to deploy that park so we can commercialize as these opportunities develop and we have a place to house them. So I have to say I'm blessed to be able to work among colleagues who are kind of really rally behind this and are really doing justice to our city, our legacy, and really ensuring that we're continue to be a gem among the region, and we're ready to make bold moves. So very, very happy to be able to work with these colleagues. So.
Well, we appreciate Woodland's leadership. So I'm going to take a few questions here off of our chat box. For those that are joining us, please feel free to drop them in the chat here. We're going to take as many as we can to keep the conversation going here. So the first question that came in was from Jen, and she asked, what are the high priority workforce training needs for the regional ag industry? So what might be missing that we aren't thinking about that we need to start developing maybe some programs for? I'm going to start with you, Fatma.
That's a very good question. We do, as a startup, actually, we do need many different talent, from business development to the technical aspect. And I would say the basic lab needs some interns who have basic lab skills would be really great, so we can add our training. And on top of that, we need talent that actually does scale up of the manufacturing. That is what currently we are looking for. And also talent who has experience with fermenters for biomanufacturing.
Vanessa, what about for your organization? What are some of those workforce needs or gaps?
It's a good question. We are actually filling many of our needs directly from UC Davis. I obviously am one that came from that region. But yeah, as Fatima says, I think that what the region does provide already with our universities, both Sac State and UC Davis, is good scientific talent. So the basic, technical level employees are accessible through the undergraduate programs and internships that are available. I think the principal scientist level also, at least for the dairy, as mentioned, UC Davis is definitely the greatest talent pool for our particular area. And so I think I would echo what Fatima is saying, that kind of the higher level expertise, we are actually going outside of the region definitely to bring on board people for product development or for manufacture, for scalability. We are working right now on building out a pilot facility actually in the Woodland area. And so we are excited to do that, but we definitely are pulling talent in from elsewhere around the region and around the globe, even to assist us in some of the manufacturing needs that we are facing now. So I'm not sure how that could be addressed really in our workplace as to improving the talent pool here. That might just be something inherent to the industry, but those definitely are areas that we reach outside to fill.
Helpful. Pam, did you have anything else to add on this one?
Oh, I would definitely echo what Vanessa and Fatma have said about that. It's always hard finding experienced folks in bioprocessing and how to run and scale bioreactors. So that's definitely a need. UC Davis has a great biochemical engineering program. And so we've ended up having trained right out of school. But it would be nice to get some more experience in the region. The other thing is, I'd like to see more. It's great. There's a lot of biology majors graduating, but there's a need for 2-year degree that are 2-year trained in out of community college in biotech lab, how to do lab work. And so if you have a bachelor's degree, you have much higher expectations in terms of the types of projects you want to work in and versus technicians. And so that technician level from a 2-year degree is really needed to do lab work.
No, that's a great point. And I'm going to echo a little bit what Pam just mentioned too. I think one of the issues that our region is facing in finding the talent for the kind of higher end positions for companies like ours is really just that we don't have history here in the Sacramento region. So we are going to the Bay Area or to the East Coast, where the industry has been in place for long enough that there is talent pool that has the 20-year, 30-year experience that are needed to come on board to fill those high-end roles. So that's not something necessarily we can address immediately, but definitely that we are sowing the seeds for in things like this, in
Sure.
Educating people about the region and bringing more talent, actually bringing more companies to the region so that we can have a better established footprint here that then we can pull from in the future.
Great.
I would
So
like
next, oh, go ahead.
one other thing. Even though UC Davis has a really great established system for industry internship, I think we could have the 2-year community colleges for industry internship and have them some real lab experience, because many of the UC Davis students, they have a lot more opportunities because their faculty do academic research and they have research labs. I think some of those things can be brought to community colleges, and they can have industry internship where students can get credit, and that can be advertised and highlighted.
Great. So I really love this next question. I think it's such an important piece of from Erica, which is how, if we think about all of the ag technology networks, are they organic or are they informal? And given that, do we think that there's a more formal structure that should be created? As I noted, there's kind of this umbrella that's happening with the food front, but what else might be needed to create more, as she calls it, creative collisions in spaces such as the lab at Agstart and other spaces, so that we're making sure that these companies feel their support, the mentorship, and that about kind of this ecosystem that we've been talking about. I'll start with you, Vanessa.
That is a fantastic question. I would say definitely currently everything is organic and informal. There are definitely some organizations that help facilitate these connections with early stage startups. From my experience in this company and another I was part of, our heads are down so deep, buried in our work, that it's difficult to find time to formalize these networks, these relationships with others at the same plane as ours. And so we rely heavily on the networks that we've established independently from our experience prior to draw on. But I think Pam probably would have a lot to say on if there are structured organizations and how to better provide access to those to early stage startups that really are in need of more mentorship and network connections in the region.
Pass it to you, Pam.
Well, there are a lot of organizations relatively new though, like Fourth Wave for women founders and Haney Biz, and just starting up a new entrepreneurship accelerator. And UC Davis Venture Catalyst has a lot going on, and I think they're going to be expanding more with some small business SBA funding, even more so. So I'm seeing that there's a lot more formal networks here now than I've ever seen. And I like the idea of both Greater Sacramento and the food front being something to bring them all together under one umbrella, so everyone who comes here or starts a company here knows what those resources are.
Fatma, did you have anything else to add?
Yes, I do, because I am one of the person who benefited from these programs. Sure. And I think as a first-time entrepreneur, it was tremendously helpful, and I still benefit from these programs. For example, I met Pam through FAST program, Fellows of All-Star Team, mentorship program organized by California Life Science Institute in the Bay Area. And they had a special grant to reach out to ag. And they came every week to Davis, and I met Pam, and it was really, really important. Then once, then I thought, okay, I'm not letting Pam go. So but this was a tremendous connection, because it's almost instant credibility, because you get to have a network when you don't know anything. Sometimes when you don't know what you don't know. But as you talk to many of these experienced entrepreneurs and you're learning, you're not really in the dark anymore. And the more you talk, the more you learn. And it is, when you have the formal programs, you have certain expectations that you fulfill, or you have certain needs that the right people help you out for a short period of time. And we benefited from Thrive Ag Accelerator, where they introduced us to farmers. That was a really great network. And we were in Tech Futures Group. This was a different mentorship program where whenever we needed, we talked to our advisor, and he introduces us different kind of advisors who have experts. And they helped us out actually with one of our SBIR grant. They reviewed it and they got back to us, which is funded. and we benefited from Indie Bio Accelerator. We still do because they do introductions, and warm introductions are really, really important for fundraising. Pam does warm introductions to having these mentors, otherwise we wouldn't get to know them. So I can go on and on for this thing forever because I benefited from many of these programs. But the last one I would say, Activate Fellowship. Some of these programs connects you and creates a bond with your fellow companies, which is really important because as a CEO, as in some of these companies just ahead of you, and they know the investor network, they can make an introduction. And they know the landscape just because they're one stage earlier, Series A or Series B, and you're planning to have Series A, Series B, they have really great advice. And some of the programs really creates a good bond with your mentors. Those are the ones who have experience and help you out to move forward. I think all together. So I would say having the more, you can never have enough mentorship program. One of the phrase I heard is, it takes a village to raise a child. I think the same is true for startups. It takes a village, the whole mentorship ecosystem to make a company successful.
I can imagine if you have Pam next to you, it's like wearing a big badge of honor when you go into those bio-innovation collaborations. So you're right, it's so important. All right, I'm going to take one more question from this group, and then we're going to move on to kind of our last question, and then we'll go back to Leanna to talk a little bit about the great work that Agstart's doing. So we've talked a little bit about space. We've talked about, again, we're going to finish with the Agstart piece, and then kind of what Woodland has in store for future. But if we think about the short term and the needs of these companies that we're talking about here and recruiting, what type of space is needed? Office, lab tech, advanced manufacturing, industrial? What do you guys see as the greatest need here in the short term? I'll start with you, Pam.
Well, until the lab at Agstart was formed, we have HM Klaus, which was great, but we needed more of that type of incubator space for startups. So glad that we have HM Klaus and then the lab at Agstart, but that's going to be quickly filled. And if what happened in Davis is when Agrinos, which was a bioag company, moved out, even before anybody knew it was vacant, somebody already had their designs on that. So there was these musical chairs of one small company going into a bigger space and then another one going into the next bigger. So you have to have room for companies to grow. Where are these companies like Vanessa's and Fatma's going to go after Agstart? So hopefully there will be a research park, and it's got to be wet lab. So that means with autoclaves and hoods and hopefully at some point a industrial fermentation facility. I know a lot of other incubators out in other regions of the country have fermenters, and that would be really valuable to add into a shared facility.
Fatma, thinking about your future needs, what types of buildings do you think we need?
I totally agree with Pam. Our next stage is Agstart allows us to grow, but after Agstart, we need maybe in the 1 to 2 years, we need a next stage where it's an incubator. It will have shared space, but we will also have our own company space where we can have some privates. We can close the door, we can lock our door. And we need right after that, spaces that we can just open the door and the whole lab is there. So we don't have to spend time to rebuild, because time is really, really important for us. And for every single thing, we don't have to design, hey, here's the lab space, now we can move in. And I also think that incubator spaces for biomanufacturing is another important step where we can actually do scale up different sizes of fermenters that can help, and the shaker flask is just for manufacturing and the talent that comes along with it.
Vanessa, any other space needs that you can think of?
Yeah, so this kind of intermediate ground, so as Pam and Fatima both have mentioned, so there are a number of these incubator spaces in the region. So Inventopia in Davis was an early one that's been around. They just opened up a new facility last year and they're already at capacity. HM Klaus, the Bayer facility in West Sacramento, is already, they've been at capacity for a while with a wait list on it. And so the Agstart facility in Woodland is, as Pam predicted, I agree with her that before the end of the year, I'm sure that they will be at capacity as well. It just demonstrates the need for this early incubator space, this the shared co-incubator space for early stage startups like ours. And then just as Fatima said, there's a complete absence of that kind of intermediary step for companies like ours to move from these incubator spaces to this intermediate, because our company Turtle Tree is incredibly fortunate that we are building out a very enormous Series A round that we're just about to close. So we have the resources available to build out a pilot facility. But very few companies are have that capacity this early on. If we did not have that resource to stand on, we would be looking for some kind of shared facility for that next step for the next 1 to 2 years before we're ready to move into our own large facility. And even the one that we're building out, the pilot facility, we anticipate it's going to be essentially good for us for about 2 to 5 years. And then we'll grow from there. I mean, these are companies, and any who come to this region are going to be in exactly the same boat. So I will again just say thank you to the West Sacramento and Woodland regions that have been so incredibly welcoming and very, very helpful with their resources and extending their help to facilitate getting these buildings up and running. But I would also just say, to any who are interested in moving into this area, like, there needs to be some innovation in this kind of mid space so that we can continue to grow these companies from startup to, successful companies and keep them in this region. I
think that's the key, right? Be here while they scale and make sure that they have the right opportunities to stay here.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to close this out for the panel portion with this kind of big question, which is, where do you see the food and ag industry in Greater Sacramento region in the next 10 years? And what do you think we need to do to be number one in this space if we were to flash forward and look into the future? I'm going to start with you, Fatma.
I see many startups in the ag tech area, from pest control to food science and producing milk and cellular agriculture and a lot of biomanufacturing. And I see many incubators that would actually start a company, for example, starting HM Klaus, then moving to Agstart, several others lined up of incubator. And I see an expanding biotech programs and many of the job opportunities that as the companies are growing, they're hiring, and very prosperous future for the area job-wise and increasing ag tech. And I see many huge with a positive impact in the area, big companies. And we get to be the number one.
I love that. Vanessa, what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, we have the talent here. We have the innovation here. As we've seen, even in this conversation, so many companies have started here. The question is, can we keep them here? So I think I'm very excited about the plans for Woodlands Tech Center. And I hope that actually breaks ground as anticipated. And if it does, then I think that will be a pillar of our food and ag industry to continue to grow and expand these companies from startup to successfully established companies in the region. So in a way, I think the answer to that question really lays on the city facilitators in Woodland, Davis, Sacramento, West Sacramento, to see what resources they have to really extend to help support what is already here. Like, how can we keep everything here instead of losing them to the Bay Area or elsewhere. But we have the ability to have an amazing food and ag industry here in this region. Absolutely.
And for Pam.
Oh, I agree both with Vanessa and Fatma. I have nothing much more to add, except we have the opportunity to be number one. And, we can beat out RTP and St. Louis and these other centers. There's no question, because we have even richer assets here in the region, and just agree with what Vanessa and Fatma said in terms of how we get there.
Pam, are you hopeful, as someone who's been in the industry for a long time and really led a lot of this ag technology innovation?
I'm very hopeful. It's the most exciting time to be in food and ag,
Yeah.
especially as an entrepreneur. And I was pretty much alone when I started so many years ago. And now it's so exciting, and so exciting to see so many women entrepreneurs. Wow, it is the best time ever to be an entrepreneur because of the resources and the incubators and accelerators that are and resources that are available now. And money. Don't forget the money. There's billions of dollars that's going into ag and food tech. Amazing amount of money right now.
Well, thank you all for your expertise, your commitment to our region, and all of the great work that you guys are doing. Truly inspiring. I want to note there was one question that came up in the chat that I think was really interesting, that this presentation, this type of knowledge should be shared with 4-H or FFA groups. And I think, right, those are our future leaders. Those are our future, if you want to get into this space, how do we think about the different types of jobs that exist in food and ag? And I think you guys have brought a lot of attention to those that want to go down the scientific path that would have an amazing career here in our region. So we'll follow up and hopefully make that happen. If you have other questions that didn't get answered, please feel free to reach out to the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. We'd love to engage you again in that food and ag council or other ways that you might be able to get involved in the conversation. So with that, we're gonna mix our agendas. So for our attendees, don't go too far. We've got 2 great speakers left. I'm gonna ask Leanna to come back and start her presentation around what Agstart's working on, and talk a little bit more about the lab that we've been all talking about today.
Well, thank you so much, Chelsea. And the internet connection gods were not kind to me earlier, but I've implored them to just give me 2 minutes to tell you a little bit about Agstart and our new incubator in Woodland, just outside of Sacramento. Agstart is a startup incubator with a mission to accelerate ag, food, and health innovation in our Western region. We provide startup entrepreneurs with education, mentoring, and connections to collaborators, customers, and investors. The Agstart program has been supporting ag, food, and health entrepreneurs for over 9 years, and we're one of the longest established programs of its kind. Over that time, we've helped literally hundreds of startup entrepreneurs grow their companies. And we have a network of mentors, advisors, and industry connections that reflect the strength of agriculture and food in California's Central Valley. We recently opened the lab at Agstart, a new incubator for innovators in ag, food, and health. Next slide, please. The lab at Agstart features a 2,500 square foot shared wet lab with over 24 6-foot lab benches for dedicated use. We also have a certified commercial kitchen, which is ideal for food product innovators. The lab at Agstart fills an intense demand for wet lab space in our region at a critical moment for innovators in ag, food, and health. Here's why. As we've been discussing, there are many challenges currently threatening the agriculture industry, including workforce, water, climate, increased regulation, and changing consumer preferences. New technology offers our best chance to solve these challenges. And innovators are forming new companies and pioneering technologies, much of it coming out of university research. And you've just heard from some of those great innovators in our region. These companies, they need facilities and they need services to validate and commercialize their technology. And the lab at Agstart and the Agstart program provide these needed facilities and services. The lab at Agstart is located in the heart of one of California's centers for specialty crop production and food processing. We're just minutes away from UC Davis, one of the top universities in ag tech, food tech, and food for health innovation. We would be delighted to show you around the lab at Agstart. Please contact us if you'd like to learn more. And thank you.
Appreciate it. And your guys' leadership as Rayleighs, we're a proud partner and very impressed with the work that's being done by the organization and in Woodland to create this new space.
Thank you so much, Chelsea.
So with that, I'd like to introduce our closing remarks speaker who can share a lot about her experience. I think she's been a great champion of ag technology and food and ag with strong Valley roots. Assembly member of District 4, Cecilia Aguilar-Curie.
Good afternoon. I think I'm on here. Let's see here. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Good. First of all, I want to thank the Greater Sacramento Economic Council for putting this on. It's important for people like myself that make policy decisions that we get to hear what's going on out in our region. But more so is that my heart is so full is because years ago, when I was still the mayor of Winters, we tried to figure out how to jump agriculture, how to do mentoring, how to do entrepreneurship. We were trying to figure out a way to do that. And I want to congratulate all of you that are on this call for taking the bull by the horns and doing it. And so I'm so proud that this is in my region. And I'm thinking to myself as we're going through all of this, we're so fortunate to have all these wonderful people working on products and working on scientific needs that we need throughout the world here in our own community. I just want to thank, first of all, I want to say something for Pam Marone. You know, you were out there front. You were the front and center for years. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you have taken on the mentoring and the guidance that we all need to make sure we get these this Agstart and all of the innovation in our region going. So first, I just wanted to just briefly say that to you. You know, and I'm going through this list and I'm writing down notes nonstop because every now and then you have to be shaken and remind what you have in your region. You know, what are we missing? Research Park. So happy with the Mayor Pro Tem of Woodland that they're working on it. They're taking risks. They're going out there and making sure that we can get a research park. UC Davis, I want to thank the community colleges. I'm so thankful you mentioned them today, everyone, because we should be tapping into our community colleges, the entrepreneurship that we're missing, and the incubator. So how do we all work together to get this done? And I want to promise to all of you is that let's have more of these discussions and to see how I can help you, as well as educate my colleagues on what is out there and how we can make our region even better. So, you know, as we know, as our startup community has received over $800 million in venture capital funding. So it's no wonder that high growth companies like the ones we have heard about today are trying to come and find our region. And I want to just emphasize is that we can continue have to look at the strengths we have in the region, our access to the farmers, UC Davis, close to Sacramento. Investors are close by. And I really like that part of it because there are investors that are looking to move to the region. And I've numerous times they've come to my office or made phone calls and said, we'd like to invest in the region. Well, guess what? I just put you guys at the top of my list. So I would love to have the discussion with all of you. My biggest wish is that we get a research park in Woodland. You all in Woodland have worked very hard on it. The Sacramento region has. And it's only a matter of time that we will be #1. And I'm here to help you all to get there. So again, I just want to thank you. Thank you for making sure that we could teach people that are on the calls today what we do have in our region. So thank you so much.
Thank you for being a part of it. And again, your leadership in helping us champion food and ag at the state level. We very much appreciate it.
Welcome.
To our attendees, thank you so much for joining us today. And please feel free to reach out with further questions or opportunities to connect.